stage Mr. Edward Misrahi.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me? Also in the back? Wave? Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Edward Misrahi, and on behalf of all my co-hosts for this evening and the advisory board of the CJL, I'd like to welcome you to the annual dinner. I want to send a special welcome to our guest speaker, Colonel Richard Kemp. Thank you for coming. He continues to be an inspiration. I don't know how many of you have listened to him before, but he's an inspiration for many of us for his support of the State of Israel. And I would also send my congratulations to our guest of honor, Marty Michel, who unfortunately is not going to be able to be here, but is a great supporter of the center, and I think you'll hear more about him soon afterwards in the context. I also would like to start, as important all these things, to thank all the incredible team at the CJL for all the work to organizing this dinner, and everything looks really, really good. And obviously the great work of all the Vogels, led by the father of Favish, Vogel, and his sons Yosef and Mendy on the great work they do for the CJL. Look, I'm excited about tonight the same way I'm excited about the energy that you get every time you encounter when you come to the events here. As many of you know, many of us consider assimilation and the potential of that risk one of the biggest threats we face among Jewry in the diaspora, and we're very focused on outreach-related programs. If there's something I've learned about outreach over time, is that there's no one way to do it, and that there are a lot of formulas that look good, sound good, and may also potentially work in paper. But what is critical is to find programs and initiatives that are effective. It's really much harder to find that strike or that plan that is actually effective in what it's going to do. And this is why, in general, my job of being able to present the CJL or market the CJL or talk about the CJL is easier. Because in a nutshell, the best thing I can say about the CJL is it works. It's as simple as that. Later in the evening, you will hear a lot more about the statistics that everybody likes to hear regarding attendance, programs, and also couples and unions that have been created thanks to the existence of the CJL. But the message you need to remember is that it worked. It's having an impact. Jews living in London that may have strayed further away from the faith or from the community are coming back. Young professionals from all over the world are finding a location and atmosphere where they're finding that they can connect with other Jews in a manner that makes them feel welcome. We should all feel very proud of the work that the center has done in such a short period of time. But as much as the CJL has done, there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more lives to touch, many more people to introduce to this wonderful world, more couples to be introduced, and more jobs to be found for people. And for that, I thank you all for coming tonight. As I mentioned, and you will hear later from one of my co-hosts, Keith Breslauer, will give you a lot of details on the needs and the achievements of the CJL and the results of the investment that you do when you contribute to the CJL. What you need to remember is you're investing in programs that have an impact, as Keith will highlight, and where the results are tangible every day. As you consider your support tonight, later tonight, remember the simple message. CJL works. Let's keep it stronger. We have a great program tonight, so I will not hold you any longer. I really hope you have a great evening, and that off the record, since this has been a very big sacrifice for me, I really hope Real Madrid eliminates Man United a little later tonight. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Rabbi Favish Vogel, who will introduce our guest of honor this evening.
The following words are not part of my script. I want to advise Edward that I was born in Manchester. Enough said. I want to welcome first the Honorary President of the Center for Jewish Life, Dr. Sam Peltz, old friends of ours, Honorable Guest Speaker, Colonel Sir Richard Kemp, and our distinguished advisory board, and all of you who have come here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I was thinking that today it's known more as the CJL rather than the Center for Jewish Life, which is a long title. And everything comes in acronyms. British Telecom call themselves BT. In my day, there was a company called GEC, General Electrical Company, which some of you may be aware. It was called GEC. ICI, Imperial Chemical Industries. Everything is an acronym. But once you reduced it to an acronym, what I felt was CJL does not only send a message, Center for Jewish Life, it sends a message for Center for Jewish Leadership. So I took my theme on leadership. The Jewish people have been prominent throughout the ages in leadership. Let's go back. The first Jew, Abraham, was the one who brought monotheism to the world. That was 3,500 years ago. That was leadership. Let's go fast forward to Moses. Moses, the lawgiver, he gave the Torah at Sinai. He was a person who was a leader. And I want to mention about the leadership of the Jewish people, which is not just for the Jewish people, but is universal. There are few people, very few people are aware that in the 17th century, Christian scholars and Hebraists, led by a man called John Selden, and very many others, focused exclusively on the Old Testament, for political philosophy and thought and direction. It was as a result of this focus that these philosophers and teachers brought about democracy, strengthened democracy in this country, gave birth to democracy in the United States, and these are the leaders of the free world, and therefore it's understandable that we can be proud that the first lawgiver, Moses, had this going for him, and the later generations brought it to fruition. But I want to go quickly forward, another 1,000 years, to a great Jewish leader. His name was Rabbi Moses Maimonides, a great philosopher. He was the author of the book, The Guide for the Perplexed. If you haven't read it, you should read it. If you're not perplexed, after reading it, you will become perplexed. But however, you will discover something about his thinking and his leadership, which he prevailed in his world and gave great leadership. But there was something else about Moses Maimonides, which his name should be remembered for good. He was the very first codifier of Jewish law. And he succeeded, which no one else in Jewish history succeeded. He achieved in completing a work which represents the corpus of Jewish law, which is the whole of the Torah, which Moses the first gave. And in fact, there was an adage which used to say, from Moses until Moses, there were none like Moses. So that's number 3 in our category, in our leadership form. The fourth one I want to mention is the late Lubavitcher Rebbe. The late Lubavitcher Rebbe, in modern times, lived basically through the whole of the 20th century, and with his universal love for mankind, and I emphasize mankind, his immense scholarship, which students and scholars are beginning now to understand, and worldwide reach. He embraced millions through his wisdom and leadership. So there we have Abraham, we have Moses Maimonides, we have the late Lubavitcher Rebbe, of which a person of such stature that his influence continues to play a very important part in our times. Now, one quote from Moses Maimonides. Moses Maimonides said, "Accept the truth from whoever tells it." Everybody has dogma, everybody has a fixed set of values, but the idea of listening to truth and sensing truth, this is what he said, accept it from whoever tells it. And it was Moses Maimonides who became very famous for that, but equally I want to say that it was the Rebbe who proposed and revolutionized attitudes by saying, take this truth and share it with others. That was a classic way of thinking which brought about the revolution which we see today of sharing and communicating and being proud of what we understand and what we know and giving it over to others. Now, about Martin and Ilana Moshel. Rabbi Yosef, my son, had many, many conversations with him over the years, right from the initiation of the Center for Jewish Life, the CJL. And he became interested, not just mentally, intellectually, but he became interested in a very practical way. And he has a record of achievement to his name. He initiated a program through the Martin Moshel Foundation, giving 200 scholarships to needy students to attend universities in Israel and in South Africa, his home base. Now, the practical side of it. Because he's a practical man and he does things in a practical way, I want to say to you that this relationship between the ideals and the persons running the CJL fused into a great bond and a great partnership. And therefore, we're delighted that he is one of our group, of the advisory board, who helps steer the CJL from its initiation stage, its junior stage, juvenile stage, to going further to maturity and adolescence, or even beyond that also. I heard a speech recently, and it focused on the following thing, and I thought it was important to share with you. Every organization, commercial and charitable, has to give answers to 3 questions. Number 1, what is it? When it's being approached, even in a commercial sense, what is it? The second question is, how did it happen? And there's another answer to that. But the third question is, why? Why in the CJL? What is it that makes it tick? What is the philosophy, the reasoning, and the ideas behind it? And I believe that we are very fortunate in having Martin and his wife as guests of honor here tonight. And they're sharing an ideal with us. Now, just as a side, his Hebrew name is Mordechai. I don't know whether it appears in the reports, but his Hebrew name